trucker boycotts for New York. That seems to be what's going on this week. So we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about this just a little bit for a couple of minutes because this could be really big. It could fizzle out, but it's important to notice. So what caused a trucker boycott? If you haven't been watching the media at all or you've been under a rock, Donald Trump was fined by the state of New York something like $365 million. Now, the judge, at the beginning of the case, what people don't remember about this case is that there was no trial about it. The judge flat out said at the beginning, he's guilty. Now we're just going to figure out how much he owes. And the whole trial was based on him supposedly overflating his assets. And so therefore, they argued that he was misrepresenting, he was committing fraud, all of that. Now, the thing is, everybody who was a part of this whole thing was saying he didn't commit fraud. He did what everybody else does. And the banks themselves were saying, we're happy with it, with how this has gone. He's a great customer. It's kind of just par for the course of how this process happens. But the judge decided he was going to hammer Trump with $365 million. Could you imagine you've been fined by a state $365 million, and the state says you can't be a top-level employee of a business or a corporation for 3 years, neither can anybody else that you're close to, blah, blah, blah. This was kind of the last straw that the trucker boycott is starting to pick up steam. And they're coming out and saying, we're not going to bring loads into New York. Now, it looks like, I've been doing some research this morning, it looks like they're calling for a 7-day boycott. But imagine how much shuts down in 7 days if truckers decide to stop bringing shipments in and out of New York. There are even shipping companies that are saying, we're with it, we're not going to assign any loads to New York or out of New York. And you've witnessed this in Europe with the farmer boycotts and the farmers rising up. And what you're witnessing is something actually very global, historical going on right now. And it's kind of like birth pains. So you'll watch something, it'll grow a little bit, it'll recede. It'll grow more the next time, it'll recede. And what you're watching right now is we always hear the language of elites. We hear the language of plebs or lower class or working class, that kind of stuff. And you're watching right now the working class rising up against the elites. And this is a historical thing. This has happened in plenty of other civilizations. Rome is the one that everybody kind of points to. What was it really? It really was a revolution from the bottom up. And people get sick of seeing injustice and seeing elites, which this judge in the Trump case is like the elite of the elite of the elite in terms of connections, establishment, and just venom for Trump and the other side. And he threw all decorum and morality out of the window and just basically said, no, he's guilty. I don't like him. Boom. And what you're witnessing right now is that group of working class saying, we're done. We're not going to deal with this anymore. And hashtag Civil War. This is the type of thing that foments a civil war in a civilization. If the truckers really get together and really do damage with this boycott, what you'll witness is a reaction by the establishment, by the government, by the elites, the global order, however they may recede for a little bit, but then they'll come back in a different way. And then the working class will have to flex their muscle. Now, my support is for the working class, for the everyday person. Those who... There's a quote in Fight Club, and I can't remember it specifically, but he basically says, we serve you your food, we clean your toilets, we fix your roofs. We are the people. And Fight Club was kind of that microcosm of the rising up of the working class revolution, all couched in training them how to do it through a Fight Club. It's really kind of a masterpiece of a work of art. And I know Christians, there's a lot of swearing or it's not godly. understandable, but it's very social psychology type stuff. And so I'd suggest it. Either watch the movie or read the book. It is very interesting. And then look at what's going on here through the lens of Fight Club. And it's like, oh, I kind of see what's going on. There is this rising up against the structure as it is. And that should give hope. And I'm not saying that we start cheering revolution, because sooner or later, unfortunately and sadly, and I don't want it to come to this, but more than likely it comes to violence. I don't want that. But the order can't stay the way it is. And something like this helps shake it up. And I'm not condemning, I'm not condoning, especially as a Christian. I was thinking about that this morning. What do I think? What do I feel about this as a Christian? And I don't know, guys. I don't really see anything wrong or immoral about civil disobedience. And if you've checked out some of our podcasts, we've argued for civil disobedience. I don't think anybody would look at Martin Luther King Jr. and say, yeah, well, he wasn't being very Christian-like. No, he was fighting immorality through a civil disobedience medium. And I believe that's what the truckers are doing. I believe they are doing this as a civil disobedience. And they have a right to refuse a load. They have a right to refuse where they're going to go. They have a right to refuse associating or taking in part business that they don't agree with. And I know that'll make some progressive heads explode because, well, we have to force Christian cake bakers to bake gay cakes. But I'm a firm believer in voluntary refusal. I'm not going to do business with a city that has thrown off all the shackles of morality and has dove headfirst into a vile bitterness and revenge mindset and have pulled out all the stops because there's somebody they don't like. So they're going to do anything possible in order to railroad the guy. I'm not saying he's clean or perfect. What I'm saying is he got railroaded on this. And people who don't have much interest in it have come out and said, he got railroaded. This is just beyond the pale. And then politicians from New York come out and say, well, don't worry about it. Businessmen in New York, you don't have to worry about it because Trump's different. His behavior is different. You know what they just told you? If your political position or your influence goes against what they want it to, you're going to be on the block. Your business will be on the block. So New York business people, do not buy that for a second, that this is somehow a one-off and they'll go back to morality. They'll go back to impartial judgment. They're not going that route. They're learning they can do it. So they're only going to get more brazen at it. We've watched it in several different areas where the courts have gotten more brazen and, well, we want to just, throw the book at the guy. Well, he didn't do anything. Doesn't matter. We don't like him. And you're watching that with Trump. Trump is that figurehead of where everything is going. And I think the trucker boycott is really just kind of the start of the beginning. And truckers are a vast majority conservative Trump voting base. And if they watch him get railroaded and they don't feel like there is any hope from other leaders, they're going to take it into their own hands. And so New York, other especially Democrat-controlled cities, I would be careful. And that I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm just saying that as human nature. At some point, people throw off. They throw off the boundaries because the boundaries haven't done anything for them. If the rules aren't protecting them, they'll throw off the rules. And we think we've gotten to a point where the populace is scared and submitted enough to not rise up. That's not the case. You've pressed them against the wall. And they're realizing, what does it matter? I might as well rise up. And I think you're going to see this catch wind. And it's something that we'll keep our finger on the pulse of, and we'll keep watching. And I think you guys are watching it too. But be aware. I mean, if you're living in big cities, you might want to put some food together, put some water together, because trucks make the nation run. And I'm not just, flying the trucker flag. I'm saying shipping over the road with trucking is a massive percentage of how you get your goods. Train, air, ship are all just a portion of that. But trucks are, how do you get it from the port to the store? Your train is not going to run by your local store. It's a truck that makes it happen. And New York is a major metropolis that requires a lot of trucks going in and out. So even if you get just a portion of trucks that say, no, we're not doing it, you're going to see things flare up. So keep an eye on it. We'll keep an eye on it. Till next time, love you guys.